morning. I am higher vibrations, and so are you. And actually, happy International Harry Potter Day, by the way, the Day of Magic. Um, I am honored to welcome back a lovely guest that I've had him on a couple different times. It's always been a really fun conversation. You never know where we're going to go with it. Um, Dr. Dwaine, the Heart Alchemist. Isn't that how you word yourself? The Heart Alchemist?
No, the Trance Alchemist.
Trance Alchemist. I'm sorry.
Because I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I call my trance alchemy,
Right.
right? So I use trance.
I think I mix it up because your name is Hartman. So it's like I
Yeah,
want to put heart in there.
well, that's nice.
Welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm
Good.
good, thank you. How about you?
Oh man, these energies have been a crazy roller coaster. Have you been feeling this turbulence that we've been going through?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a rocket ride
Oh,
now,
I like that song. Now it's gonna be in my head all day.
and now is the beginning of the new normal, the real new normal, where you know we're going to connect, and well, we always have been connected, but we're more aware of our connection to all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think is going to happen now? So that now that we've passed this, what feels like a precipice of some sort, what do you
Well,
feel in your heart's going to occur now?
what I know is that we're coming into a place within ourselves, and for the past 26 years I've been working at bringing the awareness of this transition, but now it's upon us, and and we're stepping into our God state, which has been denied
Hmm.
in us, hypnotized out of us, everything else. And what does that mean? People get a different view of what this God state is. Well, you're coming into your own. You're realizing that your reality has never been about the outside,
Yeah.
but it's all about a state of being that you can uphold and make steadfast, so that the outside gets created from the inside. And a lot of people don't realize that when you pass from this plane, if you haven't got this mastered, well, then you flail out there in infinity, and then end up taking another lifetime here just to feel stability.
Right.
Well, if the stability is within you, then you can venture on, right? And
Hmm.
not have to do the reincarnation loop trip, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the ultimate goal. So that has to do with us. And typically that is we're held back by this trauma that we've just not resolved. We've not allowed ourselves to look at some type of that is like a false anchor.
Sometimes, and sometimes it's our addiction to that
There you
we
go.
can't go forward until we're all cleaned up. The thing that is your God, you don't need to clean up. You are it. You experienced those things and did those things, good or bad, right or wrong, but you get to the point where you forgive self. That's it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And move forward, as because that's we have to really take a look at what is going on that keeps us from not actually stepping into something that's very easy
Yeah.
to step into, your God state.
Right.
And it's not denied by any you know dictator in the sky that says thou shalt not step into this. It this is part of our natural state of being. We were naturally supposed to evolve
Hmm.
thousands of years ago, but Zeus took issue with that at
You
the
want to
time.
elaborate?
Well, Zeus, it's written that Zeus put people into hypnosis and split them in two because he was jealous that they would become gods like him. So that was the first thing that they threw at us.
That's very interesting.
And and what happens is that when we're split in two, we're not divided we'll fall, together we stand, right?
Mhm.
So by having an agreeable, disagreeable consciousness, one that says, "Oh, I should do this spiritual thing," and another side that says, "No, that's just crazy," um, that's part of that hypnosis that he put humanity into. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
That's very fast. I've actually never heard that part, but I've been looking for that part that fits into the story, because you don't hear that part of the. I'm very much into all the mythologies. You know what I mean?
When I went to Greece, I stood on the beach and called Zeus forward and said, "That's enough of this bullshit," right? And
Mhm.
then we seen this really interesting purple haze in the sky, and the star that was pointed out to me that they said was Zeus, that I was saying to, "You got to reverse this," whatever. That star disappeared out of the sky when we were there. It
Wow.
just on the beach that day. And but I took a hell of a spanking after that.
Dark Night of the Soul style.
Yeah, well, it's more like, yeah, anything you tried to do, nothing turned out, and it
Mm.
was it was I realized that I had to raise my vibration even higher
Yeah.
uh, to get past that. Yeah,
Right. That's a big one.
I think I ticked somebody off there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, and that's Jupiter for others that don't know. That's the Zeus is Jupiter. It's also the name Aman, like amen. Um, it's also Anu for the Mesopotamian people, and so if and it's um, Jupiter's the Roman word. That's why we call it Jupiter. But it's really interesting to know because they're all in there. It's all written in there. That's what I find the most fascinating. It's kind of like a game, a video game or something. I don't know. We're picking up the lost pieces, and there's clear breadcrumbs laid behind, like for us to be able to piece it. We were meant to obviously put this all back together again, like
yeah.
understand it, understand it.
Well, uh, I mean, first there was Chronos, right, which is time, right, and so there's a ladder of ascent and descent, Jacob's ladder.
Right.
And in the ladder of descent, first of all, there was Chronos,
Hmm.
who introduced time, which there wasn't time before. We lived in the eternal now, right? But then Chronos came in and there is time. Now, Chronos had a son, and his son is Zeus. And Zeus was called the Great Divider. So we got time, and then we got the Great Divider that's divided everything, divided human beings, all of it, right? So, yeah. And then we start putting these pieces together again, and we realize, okay, well, ascent is, first of all, coming back together within you,
Hmm.
right? And then suspending time. And I've played with this with people, and they suspend time
Yeah.
in their mind, and strange things can happen.
Oh yeah.
Like all of a sudden, everything in your reality around you freezes. Just, not cold, just stops.
Yeah.
Birds in flight stop. uh, People eating stop. It's all frozen, and then you release it within yourself, and then time comes back. It's really interesting.
You can
Makes you
also,
wonder. Mhm.
excuse me, makes
You
you
go
wonder
ahead.
what.
It just makes you wonder how much of it is actually real.
Yeah. Yeah. You can also skip time. This is something that, like, I've actually never done it by myself because I think it's my kid that does it. But when we're driving in particular, she's gotten to that age where she just doesn't like to drive around. She just gets
Yeah.
like, oh, when we're gonna be there, and we live far enough away from, you know, we're in a really tiny town, so we have to
Okay.
drive to get to, the markets and stuff. There's one on the corner, but it's like a Dollar General. It's not like a store,
Right.
But anyway, uh it's very fascinating because every time that it happens, it's like some part of me knows we're going to do it, and I gather evidence for myself. It's really fascinating. I'll have some type of music playing on the radio. It's always live. It's on the radio, not a cassette or a CD or anything. I wonder if some of the people listening even know what a cassette is, actually. um,
I
anyhow,
do.
yeah,
Yeah.
you understand. It's been funny to watch people try to learn how to open those. Anyway, so I'll have there be a song playing on the radio. It won't skip a beat, and I'll happen to just before it happens, I'll always look at the clock. It's just one of I always feel like I look at the clock because she usually makes a statement. Ah, I wish we were already there. She'll say this, and
Yeah.
it's so crazy because I know we have at least 15 or 20 more minutes of driving because we've driven this a lot. We know how long it takes. That's on a
Yeah.
good day is 15 minutes, like where you meet all of the green lights and stuff. And then I'll look. I mean, this is a glance at my radio clock. You're not looking away from the road exactly. And I'll look back up, and we're freaking there.
Yeah.
We're entering the town. There's a huge distance of travel in between our town and theirs, and we'll be entering the town. It's like, and there's a moment of disorientation. It's like I'm lost. Where are we? Because it's not what I expect it to be. And
Yeah.
then I'll realize, oh, holy cow, the song hasn't skipped a beat. I'll look at the clock. Sometimes I'll watch the clock change its minute hand. Sometimes it's still, it's like it's the same time frame. It couldn't have happened within 15 minutes unless some kind of anomaly occurred.
That's right. And I'm going to say I'm totally comfortable with that, hearing that, and because I've experienced, and it's nice to talk to somebody that's got those experiences too,
Yeah.
right? Where you can. I remember one time I was driving it was a Chevy short box 4-wheel drive, and this thing used to eat gas like it was, and I lived 25 miles from town, and it'd take a tank of gas to get to town, like.
Wow.
And this thing was on just about empty. And I remember doing the same thing that I did with that other car uh, accident that never happened thing, was I suspended my feeling about worry and suspended it in my mind about worry, and I just drove to town. And somehow I made it to town and could fill up the truck there in town.
Wow.
But it was virtually impossible. But
Yeah.
time did something, and I really feel like when people are talking to me and they want to do things like you know jump realities, jump timelines, whatever, and I share with them that it's your holding on to the past as your identity that's keeping you glued to this time.
Yeah.
If you could let that go and realize that you're free of all of it,
Yeah.
get a feeling inside of you that you're that freedom,
Right.
then you suspend time.
Oh yeah.
And suspend time, jump timelines, whatever you want to do. You can experience something new. Best place to do it is a walk in nature, because
Yeah.
nature is outside of our time, right? And so you walk through nature and you can experience all kinds of things. I had
Yeah.
a native man riding horseback one time come around the corner of a trail I was walking. And I know that he was there and not there at the same time.
Yeah.
Like I know that. But he walked up, or he rode up and just stopped at me. And then he had this long kind of spear or sword spear, with feathers and stuff on the end. And he just reached out and touched me and then rode off. And I'm just sitting there like, what the hell was that all about? Right?
Oh,
It felt good, but you're wondering, what was it about?
yeah.
Why did you do that? Yeah. And but what I'm saying is that people playing in this area, you're going to see bizarre things. I mean,
Yeah.
and just be good with it, and it's all good.
Right.
It's just it's outside of the parameters of the box that we call reality as a collective.
Right.
And that box really doesn't exist. We're all part of the prison guards that keep us locked in that jail. We all keep ourselves in that jail. Like when you step out of that box, you're going to have people come around you saying, you really should do whatever the rules
Right.
are, right? Because
I get
because
that.
they all get nervous when they see a free being floating around, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I get that all the time. All the
Yeah, that
So what I got from when you were telling the story, I have the occasional gift of like sight where I get to see what the person experienced when they're talking it. And
yeah,
but then like I was getting input from my guides too. This is really so I bet you already know this, but I'm just gonna say it, is that it's not that this Native American individual was a apparition either. This was you had merged time frames, and
yeah,
he was high frequency enough to meet you, and you were high enough frequency to meet him, and
right,
it happened at that moment simultaneously in two different lines of the linear time.
yeah.
Does that resonate with you?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
That's really cool.
When I talk about it, I don't know how far to go with it, right?
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're here to to open it up to everybody, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, that's what happens, and anybody can do that.
Yeah.
Like I share with people, I says, you have no idea because you try to shake them up a little bit on the stringent box reality, right?
Yeah.
You have no idea. You can go to bed at night and wake up in a different reality in the morning and
Oh yeah.
hardly notice the difference, right?
Sometimes you do notice it, sometimes very obvious, or it's subtle obviousness.
Yeah,
I feel like it's obvious. I notice things.
yeah, yeah. You would notice. Um, Not everyone does. So they get up and they go, "Oh, I feel a little strange today," and you know, the kids are acting different. I don't know what's going on with them, right? Well, they don't know that they've jumped a timeline. They're not even with they're with the higher vibrational kids,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. And when you I saw Sherry mention, I'm gonna bring her up her comment. She said she talked about slowing down time if she's running late for an appointment so she could be on time.
Yes.
I do this too. And I still don't do it on purpose. Like, I kinda do now a little bit more than I did before. Before, it was just kinda like, um, not getting in the anxiety or the stress of feeling late. That is the trick, and
It
just
is.
going with the flow and just being like, I'll get like speak as a wizard speaks, right? A wizard is never late. They always arrive exactly when they intend to. And
That's
if I behave in that way, then time slows down to accommodate.
right. Exactly. So if we slow this down and take a look at worrying about being late, don't you get to be right?
Yeah, right. You're manifesting it.
You are.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is the thing that we really need to pay attention to at this point when there's so much fear mongering going on, and
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
supposed to be scared of everything, is what fear actually does to our system, to our mind. It throws us into mismanifestation and reverse to what you want as
Yeah.
soon as you start to worry, because when you're worrying, you're only thinking of negative outcomes.
Right.
Right? So when we slow down and just become the wizard like you're talking about,
Mhm.
i'm always i'm always on I'm always on the right time.
Yeah.
um Now you're seeing different things in your mind about it being a magical arrival. You may magically show up on time, or you may be late, but it's going to be just perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that happen too,
Yeah.
where it was so perfect that I was delayed,
Yes.
because I would have also I've had incidents where, things like a tire issue stops me or slows me down, and I'll find that something would have happened that wouldn't have been favorable to me down the road if I were on time, quote unquote.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And what's more is I find that it depends on what I'm doing, is how much more time I'm given. It's really interesting. This is my most recent one, is because I lead meditation in meditation groups, and like it's different when you're leading. Hey, it's 222 for me. It's different when you're leading it, having scripted ahead versus what I do. I literally don't know what's going to happen. I just say, this is my intention. I'm using this energy for this. This is my goal is. But they don't always. They my guides and those who speak through me, sometimes archangels, depending on what's going on, galactics, all kinds of stuff. Is just because I've given a list to Santa doesn't mean I'm going to get everything on that list. It's going to happen the way it's meant to. And going through these meditations, I'm also on the ride. You know what I mean? I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is what's crazy for me is that it'll translate to say that the meditation had been going on for, let's say it said an hour and 4 minutes, but the clock tells me I've been in meditation for 20. Like,
Yeah.
and then it also feels like we did about 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so, or the reverse. Sometimes I'll go into on my own. I'll go into meditation and like I'll think that I've been in there for hours upon hours upon hours, and like the clock really hadn't even changed time.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing.
It is. How useless time really is. Like
Yeah,
the keeping of time, right? I'm another year older.
right,
Sure.
right.
Okay. Yeah. You know, all of this was geared up so that, we would be here, be a good workforce for some time and then exit so that you could
Right.
reincarnate and be a new slave. Um, and the thing of it is that we're not bound by time even with our own age,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Evidence of that's becoming more and more true. Provably true, I guess is what's more correct to say, because I've always gotten that. Like the de-aging stuff and the regrowing of teeth and all that stuff. Whenever I would mention it, there's always one or two or maybe more people having conversation about it in the chat, or in response to the video later on. Now it's actually being proven.
Yeah.
Now people really are really regrowing their teeth. And then there's some scientist that's trying to, get money for it. So they're like saying it's a newly invented thing and whatever. But that's
Oh
okay.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So I have an interesting story about that. There was an Aboriginal man from Australia, and this little boy accidentally got his finger cut off, right? And so the Aboriginal worked with the boy and did something with him and taught him some things and whatever. And the little boy grew his finger back,
Right
right?
on.
Well, this made the headlines, and everyone wanted to interview this Aboriginal man. And so he was talking to the TV guys and whatever, and they said, "So how does this work? I mean, the boy grew his finger back. How did this work?" And the old man said, "Well, you know that lizards, when you cut their tail off, they grow another tail,
Yeah.
and and you're smarter than a lizard, right?" The old Aboriginal said. And then the guy at the interviewing him said, "Well, no, that's a different type of cells, and in a lizard's tail, and that can't be right." And then the old man said, "Well, I guess you're not smarter than a lizard." So sometimes, in this academia
Yeah.
proving whatever, it's really cutting off the magic,
Yeah.
you know, which is a shame, right?
It is.
Because we need to explore more that magic, and more so, we need to explore the magic within us,
Yeah.
let it out, because that's what's been suppressed. We're very powerful beings, except for the fact that we've been grossly hypnotized
Mhm.
to be powerless. And so when people come to me and they say, "Well, you do hypnosis. I don't know if I can be hypnotized." I just laugh. I says, "You're nothing but hypnotized. I help you dehypnotize, right?
Mhm.
And come out of that. We have so much to explore. Shows like this, where we get to listen, hear, and explore within our own imagination the possibilities, right? When we're hearing nothing but, election this and that, this, and,
Right.
who gives a hoot, right?
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, humanity has to pull its ass out of the quagmire.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to activate our imagination to do that. Our own imagination, right? Our
Mhm.
own imagination as to what would be possible for us. What would that feel like? What would it look like? What would it sound like? Step into it and become it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The scientific method actually in itself, if you look at what the scientific method is, which is kind of what you were describing, um, you just alluded to it, is it teaches us to try to disprove your hypothesis.
Yeah.
Those are the steps of trying at each one, you're casting a spell against yourself that you won't discover that you're right
Yeah.
over and over again.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
When they say, well, I hear this often, oh, science just proved that there is life after death. I laugh because, I mean, we've known this for eons, and they're finally catching up. If you're that slow, I don't want to pay attention to you, really, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes you that long, right? Because in our community of things, we've known that for forever. And now all of a sudden it's supposed to be a big hurrah thing because they discovered it.
Yeah.
I think what's happening and what's happening in the world is they're getting their egos busted pretty good.
Yeah.
And they will. Yeah. There's been something that's been much more powerful within each and every one of us rising to the surface
Yeah.
that they can't stop
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
Exactly. There's and as we move through farther through what is basically hardly a veil at all anymore, we're
No.
just meant to um it's weird how knowledge moves into us these days. It is more like osmosis than it is what we've been traditionally taught to, repetition or reading or exploring, where a lot of it just kind of comes in as downloads these days. It feels like osmosis, you know?
It is. It is, and that's exactly it. And I've taught this for quite a few years. It's if you take a look at Aboriginal children, original Aboriginal children, they're they get to hang around while everyone's doing what they're doing. Someone might be skinning a hide, someone might be scraping down a hide, someone, and then eventually the child
I lost your audio. It stopped.
back.
Yes.
So with Aboriginal children, they watch parents, right? Until the child finally gets excited and says, I can do that.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's supposed to be. That's how we're supposed to learn, because we play with it in our imagination first and we see ourselves doing it and we can feel ourselves doing it. And so then we go out and do it, right?
Yeah. Right.
We're supposed to learn that way, not rote learning. And beating 10-pound Schofield reference Bible. You're supposed to learn from
Yeah.
exploring the different ideas out there and what resonates with you, and then you're a genius at it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as you probably well know, we're talking about global examples of this, that the classroom setting, the school model is all Rothschild, and
Yeah.
this actually kind of segues a little bit into something this is something funny, interesting. So I've been like getting a lot of stuff about um, Tartaria and that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Um, and like there's still a lot of rabbit holes that are just kind of I'm being thrown down, I guess. But like this one in particular what has to do exactly with these different lines. And I didn't know why, but I kept getting all this information coming in, download style, about the different generations and the names of them. And I was like, why
Hmm.
is that significant or important? So I wrote it down. And
Yeah.
what they were showing me was that it's you could see the dates of the fall of Tartaria, and that's also coincides with the reset by the names of the generations themselves. The first named generation, officially named, we later went back and named previous generations to kind of fill that pattern. But the first generation that was ever named in the time of the generation was called the Lost Generation, and that was 1883 to 1900. Why is
Wow.
that significant? Well, if you go back and you look, most of the structures that were founded, they were founded around that window of time, or for like within that period. But then let me finish this story really quickly. It's very fascinating. The greatest generation was the next one. That was 1901 to 1927. That was the time of the orphan trains. All of a sudden all these trains appeared, and this was also on the shirt tails of all of these incubator babies and all of these fairs and stuff everywhere. They
Yeah.
were showing they were growing babies,
Yeah.
right?
Cabbage Patch.
The Cabbage Patch Kids, that's where that came from. And
Mm.
that was they were called the greatest generation. I find it interesting that they named what they created. And what I got from this was they were attempting to keep the genetic diversity and also Tartarian genetics within the population, which is why they did that. But I'm just going to go a little bit farther. I'm almost done. And then the next generation after that's the silent generation, because they were the ones that were raised without their past. They were the ones that were told and made to stand in line. They were like the best slave. That particular generation, there's not very many left. But that particular generation were intended to then multiply, which led into the baby boomers and the Generation X and so on and so forth. Why is
Right.
this significant? Is it took this many generations to get to where we are now, where you're able to connect with the pure parts of your genetic makeup in order to realign with spirit, with creator, with your own divinity, with your own uh,
Yeah.
uh, sovereignty. Isn't
Right.
that fascinating?
Yeah. It is. And it is and it isn't at the same time, because they got rid of Tartaria.
Yeah. What happened with that? Do you want to share what you know about that, if you feel like it?
I don't know exactly what happened there, except for the fact that they were more advanced, and we were looking for. I mean, you take a look at ancient Egypt and down the line, and there had to be somebody left over after that that
Yeah.
carried it on, and now we're finding out there was, and now we're finding out that they took care of them, right? Because they didn't want you to know you're more.
Yeah.
They wanted a slave race. Here we are, right? And even when you have things like yourself doing the work that people,
Mm-hmm.
you get people that balk that when it's just utter freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could sit there and in your own system come up with a feeling of bliss and freedom and hold it while your reality morphs into that, right? Just like it morphs into when you're running fear and anxiety and stress about the world, you get to see more of that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, I know this is it's kind of getting away from Tartarianism, but
It's okay.
I think that that's where Tartarianism was going. I mean, we had it in the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, my dad said, if you've ever noticed, whenever they have a nuclear explosion, consciousness increases on the planet. And I was like, really?
Hmm.
He says, well, look at it. They had the explosions, and then consciousness increases. Smart, aware, more aware happens. I don't know if that truly is a fact or not, but he really felt it was that took place. But that causes a jump, or does it cause a rip in the box?
Yeah.
And then people start thinking outside of the box.
Right.
I don't know. But Tartarianism, or Tartaria, right? I mean, this goes along with the land of Mu.
That's
And
right.
I got information on this a little while ago. Where did Mu go? It was a big continent. Where did Mu go? Oh, I found out where Mu went.
You found
When
it. Cool.
when we had the expansion, we were having an expansion at the time, right? That's why they were sinking and different things happening. The land of Mu moved beyond the ice wall.
Yeah.
And it's still there. It's just beyond the ice wall. I started getting, and you can, if you ask and you start reaching, you can connect with beings from the other side of the ice wall
That makes sense.
that will share things with you. Like, I asked the question about money over there on the other side, and he says, well, we don't have money like you have money. We have something that's called the ka. And the ka is your own energy, your own vibration, your own. Now you can create things with the ka, right? So you're never without abundance. It's always. You can create things, and people could, if they wanted to, steal that, but we don't here because everyone's got a functioning ka energy.
Awesome.
Creating what we desire, right?
Yeah.
So it can't be stolen from you. You can't lend it to anybody. Nothing. It's yours and yours alone, right?
Right. That's really
And
fast.
so I'm finding out different things, as I meditate on it and talk to this person, right?
That's really cool. That's really neat. I hadn't actually considered talking to anyone. And for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, this there's many people who believe that there's a ring or yeah. Let me see. I actually have an image of it. Whoops, I didn't mean to close this window all the way down. There we go. Okay, this you can actually see a ring of ice around the continents, and you'll actually see inside here. I'll grab this one. This one's the best. No, it's not. Hold on. um, you'll see that there's a ring of ice, like a container,
Yeah.
emanating because why won't it? There it goes. There's a lot of people who discuss it too. That's what actually really draws my attention. I found this, what feels like quite on accident, but you know there's no such thing. you know, it popped up in a video that I don't know why it was brought to me exactly, but here we go. So if you go really deep inside here, right here, this inside circle is the known lands. This
Yeah.
is what we call the world. And
Yeah.
it's actually more equal to this. It shows you four outlets. There, there's four giants. They're really real. And they kind of hang out in these areas like to guard whatever it is that they're meant to guard. If you go out farther, you'll see that there's more and more and more to it. In fact, beyond the blue of the water here, you'll have more world. It's pretty fascinating to look
So
into.
that white circle is what I'm talking about, which is the ice wall.
Yeah, this
And
right
it shows
here.
up, it shows up, people have traveled out and it shows up as a literal wall of ice. And now people are starting to fly over it, and they get into a lot of shit, but they're
Mhm.
they're flying over, they're bringing information back from beyond that circle you're seeing there, that there is other land masses and there's other groups of individuals living on those masses,
Right.
and it much freer
Why is it still
than what
sharing?
we are. Yeah.
There it goes. I thought, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I thought I had turned it off, but then it's still going. How do you turn it off? Stop sharing. There we go.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I was pushing the wrong button. Yeah, please go on. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Is that why I kept getting shocks over here? You were pushing the wrong button, and
Were you getting shocked? That would have been really interesting if you were.
yeah. Anyway, yeah. So, and I'm wondering, like I'm getting some feelings. I'm wondering if that's not what happened to uh, some of Tartaria, because it
Right.
wasn't just one landmass that they were on; they were everywhere.
Yeah, that's correct. What I
And
the downs. I'm sorry, I cut you off again.
no, no. You
The
go.
downloads I've been getting about it lately have been to understand it a little bit more thoroughly. Like your reference to Saturn, which is Kronos, and to Jupiter, which is Zeus. Like these messages have been written about the stars everywhere. It doesn't matter what group you're talking about, what era, what time frame, going back and back and back. They tell the stories of the people of the skies, the gods of the skies. These celestial bodies are depicted as people with all kinds of things that they have gotten up to, and if you allow yourself to suspend what we're told is correct and allow yourself to kind of listen to what the information that's being given to you is about, you'll actually see that these things are real world. These are real events. They've that have actually occurred. For
Yeah.
instance, this stuff to do with Tartaria, um, it's all over the actual ground. Like for instance, this is one I think is really interesting. The Wall of China. For the
Mhm.
longest time, I never noticed the Wall of China was facing the wrong direction. Like if you look at the Wall of China, first of all, the architecture of it is very Tartarian. You'll see these structures are all over. They're usually government buildings. The
Yeah.
Washington D.C. White House is a Tartarian building. You'll see them all over the world. They're all over the world. In fact, most of the bombings that happened during the various world wars, they were blowing up Tartarian structures in different countries. The one in Japan was the most notable. Um, the world fairs that were occurring over they kind of stopped after they ran out of Tartarian stuff to blow up, but they were always. I have all this stuff, man, and I was wondering what it was all about. But these individuals, what they would do is they'd say we're having a world fair, and they would pretend that they've just created this amazing, like I mean, made out of marble and golden statues and waters and canals and stuff. And then they would blow it up right after the World Fair was over. This is all through the early 1900s, usually. And there's all kinds of different video about it. They look kind of almost Roman, if you would like, because all the pillars and stuff. And they're claiming the ones that they've left behind that they didn't blow up. They are calling them that they were founded, but it's implied that that was when they were erected in the 1880s, typically. What's fascinating about that is if you compare any other structure from that time frame, it's made out of wooden nails. Like you can do the math. How many horses and buggies would it take to carry, 8-foot solid marble sections that go up 300 feet and to make 18 of them just in the front door? You know what I mean? Like that's not possible for that time frame. And
Yeah.
you go in there and you find that the harmony of the building can be utilized like the inside of a pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
And the bells. This is a whole thing. I keep going. You go ahead, pick up.
Well, they buried many of those bells because they were actually harmonic frequencies that would heal people. I mean, Tartaria was a fascinating evolution of humanity.
Yeah.
Because they utilized everything. I mean, the even in the old churches and stuff, you see those round windows, awful lot like what's behind you there, and you see these round windows, and they find out now that these round windows actually have a purpose in generating electricity. That these steeples, that they all had this gazebo out back, and they're finding that there's copper lines coming up into the gazebo. The thing that was generating the power or storing the power is gone. The gazebo's still there, but
Yeah.
makes you just wonder, how long does it really take to wipe the minds of people and them think that this is just a new normal? Like the architecture that we have now is just gross compared to what they had in Tartaria.
Right.
I mean,
it was elegant before.
Yeah. It matched a frequency within the people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll see that they tear down these structures, blow them up, like they call lots of times. I mean, you'll hear these stories all over the place. There's almost every city has an underground version of that city because they burned the previous one down. They claim it burned down. Not always is that true. A lot of times you'll actually find that there was now there was a period of mud floods that whether it was during the conflict in the fall of Tartarian people or the cause of it or just somewhere in there. But there was some type of mud flood. So you'll see a lot of these older buildings that we're talking about too tend to have like the front doors offset. Like, so they have to dig down. So you have to go down into it. You'll notice that the ones underground too. Sometimes these buildings, you can wander around the underground city of that city, and you'll see half of these buildings are in the ground, the ones that people are using. It's just that it was covered over, and a lot of that stuff they just didn't even want available, so they just covered up. That window you talked about in these churches, there's actually something else to it too, is the harmonics of it. Like this, I always forget the name of it. It's like seismograph or something like that. They put sand on like a speaker and then it makes cool.
Yeah.
Well, it would end up mimicking the sound that happens in that particular building mimics what's in the window. So it's an advertisement, basically. It's saying, hey, come in here if you need this resonance today. It's not meant to be a place of worship. And it's also designed for you to lay down on your back, not to sit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so we got away from that. And now, they buried it, they burnt it, they Mud flooded it. They did everything to destroy it. But guess what? Here it comes surfacing again. Because that greater mind of yours never forgets. It's never been born, nor will it ever die. It's eternal. And so you have lived a Tartarian life.
Yeah.
You have lived many lives. You can draw on that information to now, whatever, save your butt now, right?
Right.
They're trying really hard to scare everybody. And a lot of it over the internet about conspiracy theories about these people and what they're doing and their power
Yeah.
is just fear mongering, because they know that you manifest reality. And if they can scare you into thinking about it, and you're going to think about it and create it for them, and then they're happy that they got more power. And all we have to do is just bring it home.
Yeah.
Bring it back home to you. What's in your surroundings right now?
Right.
Not even that. What are you vibrating at?
Yeah.
You can say, well, I'm vibrating in fear. Well, okay, stop, take a deep breath, slowly exhale, and come back to the feeling of freedom.
Yeah.
And then maintain that, right? And be wary of anybody that's trying to pull you out of it, because, of course, when you start coming into that state and being the light being that you are, you're going to have all kinds of people, maybe friends, maybe family, that's going to say, hey, you're floating outside the, you be careful, you're going to get locked up here, right? To try to scare you back into the prison, right? Because like they say, there is no bars on the prison that they got us in.
Right.
They're relying on all of humanity to keep you in the box.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you float out, yeah. And that's what I've noticed in my work. People come to me with this serious problems. Oh my God, either health or whatever in life, but they've been listening to all the mongers out there.
Yeah.
And so I say, okay, so just come inside for a second. And what is it really? What are you experiencing really? Well, I'm experiencing a fear. Well, what if the fear wasn't there and you felt freedom instead? But I can't. I says, well, what do you owe fear? You don't owe it anything. You can abandon it and step into just joy and step into freedom. Now, as you see yourself in freedom, what's happening to you? Well, I'm feeling better. No shit. Right?
Yeah.
It's very simple. Therapy is very simple once you get to this area. And people can understand that their thoughts, the main vibration they're holding all the time is creating.
Right. That's why we're said made in the image of the creator. That's why those words are said. That's another clue for you. If you're not happy, you haven't created for a while, have you? That's usually how it works out. It's easy as that for me. If I'm not feeling happy, that's once I pull my head out, once I pull my crown out of my root chakra.
That's your crown coming out of your root chakra.
Yeah. Right. Then I'll usually go, oh, wait, I haven't created for a while. And as soon as I and creating can be all kinds of different stuff, man. You can create a space, you can create a meal. People clean to create a space. People write, draw, create music, dance. It doesn't need to be that you're like an expert at it. Play. Dancing, I can say, I have no question in my mind that I suck at it. I am convinced of it, and I don't care, because when I let myself dance, I'm in that playful state in creation, and I'm happy, and like that will offset any density that's moving through at any given moment. Like, so whatever it is that works for you, that's my encouragement.
So, and that's the thing, it's supposed to be for the joy the joy of it, right? It's supposed to be that you have an idea, you have joy, and you go off and you do whatever it is, right? It's when we have to go, well, in order to be a good painter, you have to go to school for
Well,
that. Give me a break, right? When has creativity ever got to do with rote learning? Come on, grow up. It's about being expressive and expressing. It is a. I heard it one time. An artist isn't painting for you. The artist isn't painting even for themselves. The artist is painting out of the joy of creation itself.
yeah,
And so expressing that creation, expressing their their ability to create isn't even it. It's just a love for source energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And if we did that with our own lives too,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. You'd be so much. When we do that, we are so much better off when we don't. In the times that we don't, and I've always been guided to understand the way that this works is exactly, you use the word freedom and I use the word love, but it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Is that we have a spectrum of emotion. This is fear, this is love, and all other emotion that exists in between in the spectrum of it all is derivative of one of these two things, sometimes both.
Yeah.
Like you'll have shame and anger and all those types of things, low self-worth, are all really close to the fear side, and the closer to love that you can go, the more that those experiences of pulling you down in the fear state and all those types of unfavorable experiences dissipate. And in fact, just as you said earlier, you gave the recipe of how to solve that, and it has to do with forgiving yourself when you were talking earlier. Um, and I've discovered that, okay, so a lot of us have been having this thing for a little while. I don't know if you've been having it, Dwaine, but I call it end of life review. A lot of us are having like just,
Hmm.
it feels like random moments throughout your life. And the recipe I've discovered to assist you when these things pop up, of course, don't, to look at them, but we're not meant to like take on a new label or anything like that. And when we look at them, then what we're being shown is different perspective. So we understand why that occurred and where that person was coming from, but mostly to forgive yourself. Weird.
Hmm.
It feels weird to forgive myself for being cringe. You know what I mean? It feels weird to forgive yourself for things that don't feel like they require forgiveness.
Hmm.
However, allowing yourself to do this unbinds you,
Yeah.
untethers you from that density so you can move on.
And so what happens, what you're sharing here is that you have something stickily in your past that you haven't forgiven or whatever, forgiven yourself for or forgiven whatever. So then you do this exercise of forgiveness and you finally get forgiveness. And now what happens? You've actually let go of the past. Let that really resonate or sink in. So you can also imagine your past as a timeline behind you and reach back behind your head and unhook it and let it go, the whole thing,
Yeah.
and just feel that for a second. You can hook it back up again, you probably will. But the thing with it is just feel that buoyancy and stay with that buoyancy because that's how you access the right mind for a change, right?
Hmm.
Because it's always the left that has been programmed. It's the left brain that's programmed. The right, they can't touch it. But the left brain, and it's always looking for, this equals that, right? We got trained in that very, very early on in life. This equals that.
Yeah.
That was supposed to help us along in life. So if this happens, then that'll happen, right? And the brain is always looking for that. And then I do this mantra with myself: nothing equals nothing. Nothing equals nothing. And I train my brain to just go into suspended animation or the float or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It takes you out of left brain and pops you right into the right, where your own connection, your own source energy lives. So a lot of times in the morning, I won't listen to anything, not a show, not a nothing, not a nothing. I just go into my own imagination and sit with it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what a good time you can have.
Oh, yeah.
And it's your own imagination, but people have a tendency to not do that because they're so on the giddy up to get enlightened when they already are. If they just stop for a moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get that too. Anything, all things, when overdone, when used in excess, are out of alignment and out of balance, removing harmony, creating disharmony, right? So, like that could be true for any good thing. When we don't overdo something, then it's too much, and that I've noticed to be something that's really common for uh, people like us, a group of, the people who are in the awakening and stuff. There's moments that come in that I've had those experiences too, where it's like, I remember when the whole white hat thing was important, like what ray am I and those types of things. There was moments where these types of things were important. They felt important.
Yeah.
But they were instead, I mean, maybe activators, but then became almost an addiction. It's
When it moves to addiction, it's lost. It's like even this show right now, right? Like they're going to watch it in replay,
mhm,
and they're going to hit a point where something really activates for them. And like I suggest to my friends and clients and whatever, that's the key to stop the video and explore in your own imagination where that took you.
yeah,
What's happening in society now? And now we're getting shorter and shorter bites, right? Of
mhm,
information, is that they go on to the next, they go on to the next, they go on
yeah,
to the next. What's missing is you're not associating it into yourself. You're not taking the time to actually go, oh, this was a great information and it did this to me. And then I wonder what's next, instead of doing the integration process
yeah,
of integrating it and seeing how it relates to you. What rubrics did it just trigger, right? In you. Because ultimately, there is one teacher, and that's you,
right,
right? And when we realize that it is us, that we are sending out these guideposts or whatever to come back to us as experience, that we sit with that for a bit, right? That's all I'm saying.
yeah,
Because remember, we're addicted to disassociation.
right, yeah. I agree with you. Actually, it's fun too because the audience that does come to and watch these videos typically will tell me that they're doing what you're suggesting. A lot of people will say it takes like 4 or 5 days to watch an episode or sessions, sittings, because and I'll do that, but a lot of times I won't turn the thing off and I'll like so I won't end up finishing it. I'll eventually turn it off because it's the noise is distracting my download and what I'm doing. I I actually this is something that could be considered by some as a flaw of character, but this is just who I am. It's not always been that way, but especially over the past few years. If someone writes me a very long message, I'll get lost. And it's not that, I'm losing interest in what they're talking about. It's that enough has come through that I'm in download mode now. And then that
s-
person won't get responded to, you know. And it's like, and it's unfortunate because there are people who will obviously spend quite a bit of time writing me long emails, and you know, it's just it's never going to be consumed. I'm going to get to the first paragraph and I'm going to go into download style, and uh, a few hours later I'll come back to the computer and have something else to do and I won't even notice the email again, you know.
well,
But
the thing with it is that I I have to admit I'm getting that way too.
hmm,
I'm getting that way too in my the longer I do this work,
yeah,
is that if you send me a book, I'm probably won't read it.
right,
You know, because like you say, I've got it in the first few paragraphs. But
right,
it's just because we've been doing the work we've been doing for so long, right?
yeah,
That we automatically get a connection. The email, put it this way, the email, you're sitting there reading it, but then all of a sudden you connect to the person. You don't need the
yeah,
email anymore, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like you have downloaded what they are meaning on a soul level, but it's not always it's specifics to what they've written, because we use certain words to try to assign to elements about our life that we don't fully understand completely, you know. So like we're getting their their higher self's version, I guess.
Yeah.
You know. And so like the saying that this is a trauma that's I'm struggling with right now as an example, and when what they're actually saying is I'm finding my way out, and I've found this, there's this light, and I want to explore that light more. What is that light? How do you play with it? That's the kind of words they actually mean, but they don't know they mean that. They're used
Yeah.
to being taught. We were all taught that your trauma is your identity. You announce yourself, you introduce yourself like that. Hi, my name is so and so, and I came from a traumatic background, and I have this, and I have that. That's got nothing to do with who I am at all. It
Yeah.
could, if I'm focusing on it and not letting myself heal through it, that becomes an aspect of my life currently. But that doesn't still I create the ability to identify who I am.
Oh, but that's denial.
I know, right? You get that one.
So that's another thing that I hate is when people say that because it's uh well, I can't say I hate it. It's just I look at it and I go, if you're not doing this, you're in denial. Well, that's the best sales tactic I've ever heard because it throws
Yeah,
you in and it throws you into all kinds of things. Now you got people that feel that they have to come to you with a problem, otherwise they can't talk to you, right?
yeah, yeah. I have an aversion to manipulation of any form. I'll just say it. You
Me
do not
too.
have my consent to manipulate. I do not give you my consent for manipulation. I remove my consent for future manipulation and other narcissistic tendencies. People get
Yeah.
mad, but it's like you can't make somebody happy. You also can't make somebody sad, you know?
But if they got mad at that, you have to ask yourself, why did they get mad?
Yeah,
Because they
right,
realize they can't manipulate you.
right.
Sometimes it's that way, sometimes not. But
Yeah,
again, it's part of our guard system to keep us in the box.
yeah, yeah,
And the guards are everyday people ever all around, right? That are keeping the box going. We need to step out of the box and expand into our absolute freedom. And that's again is love. Absolute freedom is love.
yeah,
The love of creation again, you know. So when I was starting out as a hypnotherapist, I kept hearing people say, I wish I could get back to when it was simpler. I wish I could get back to when I was younger. I wish I could get back to, and I kept, okay, so let's explore that. So with a few clients, I explored that. Let's go back to whatever this is you're talking about. And what is it? While it was before the programming of religion in schools,
Mm-hmm.
religion and schools, and sometimes parents, there was all kinds of amateur hypnotherapists around
Oh
to
yeah.
size you into the box. And so here's a child fresh from source that is plugged in and knows, is told they're wrong,
Yeah.
and they have to put this mask on and pretend to be somebody else. And then they wonder why we have depression at about 35, 40 years old, because they spent their whole life unexpressed as the God they are.
Mm-hmm.
And that child, I don't care what anybody thinks, that child is more God than any adult ever.
Yep. Definitely.
That child fresh from source should not be programmed at all, should be listened to.
Yeah. They're the teachers.
They're the teachers.
Yeah, definitely.
I I
Hey, we've been
remember.
on for 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds. Just that second. I had to, sorry, go ahead. I didn't have to point it out.
Oh, is it time to go?
Well, soon, but I saw the ones. It was 1 hour,
Okay.
11 minutes, and 11 seconds.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
and
do
I
need to wrap it up. We've been about a few minutes probably.
you do know that I was born November 11th, 1964.
No, that's awesome.
So it's
That's
11/11/11. Some people
wow.
some people call me the 11/11 portal.
That's really funny. Um, the question has come up a couple of times in the audience. So I would like to kind of answer this because we didn't really get, we did, but we didn't. There was questions of people asking, what is Tartaria? So what we were describing was a known, not only culture, but civilization, huge
Civilization.
civilization that isn't specific to one region, and that there's we know a lot of our history. The history is written by the victor. We hear that all through our lives for a reason. There's propaganda in most of the history we're taught growing up, and that's why the books were different every year. But anyway, there was a time where there were this other civilization that thrived and had free energy. They had zeppelins. That's why all these old photographs are whited out, in my opinion, is that they don't want you to see what's in the sky. What they went to quite a lot of effort to, you know, eliminate the skies in all of these old photographs. I think it's because the zeppelins were flying around, and perhaps more than that. Anyhow, the tops of these buildings almost always have like this. It looks kind of like a insulator at the top of a transformer in like your energy poles that we have out here. By the way, there's also a lot of these photographs from this earlier time when supposedly there wasn't electricity. People were driving around in what looked like cars, and they had telephone poles like we use for our electricity, but they didn't have any wires. They had these coils on the sides, but they didn't have wires. And anyway, so this is the time of like technology where they were able to utilize sound and frequency, all this Tesla stuff that you hear people talk about. And that Tesla talked about was discussing Tartarian um, uh, technology, I guess is a word to use. And it was a thriving civilization that got quieted over,
Yeah.
it only took 5 generations of the official generations that are written as named, for us to kind of forget. But now we're remembering again. That's
Well,
my sense.
like,
What do you want to
that's that's like Atlantis, right? Everyone says, well, Atlantis sunk. Atlantis fell. There was
add?
pyramids on every continent.
There still
There
are.
were there that whole Atlantis civilization was everywhere.
Yeah.
When it fell, it collapsed everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But it was more than just one island that sunk. It was a whole, just like we're talking about Tartaria there. But do you know that there are missing countries that they don't talk about
Yeah. In fact, you
that
can
they just
find it.
execute with?
You
Yeah.
can actually find these countries because so Spirit suggested I look at flight patterns. That was what I was doing right then because Spirit brought it up. I'm like, okay, I'm all about. Anyway, uh, there are 3 locations that supposedly are in the ocean, but for some reason, the flight path they'll always go all the way around it. These 3 different locations, and
Hmm.
if you like do over time. So they'll have drawn colored lines to the flight paths. After a while, you'll actually see exactly the shape of these different continents because they're perfect circles. They'll go over and around it and on the sides, but they won't go through these areas. And it makes no other sense other than you don't want someone to look out the window and say, "What country is that?" You know, and it's just, but
Or
um,
or is
your audio's off.
is it back?
There you go.
It's like the North Pole too. They don't want to fly
Right.
over there, so people say, "What's that big hole that's going into the center of the earth?"
Yeah, exactly. They recently found that they released or opened up the ability to look at this area in part. And there was a whole bunch of people who got screenshots of this that it was all over the place for a little while. I saw all kinds of stuff, but you could see they would zoom in. There was this massive hole in the middle, and if you got close enough, you were able to see that there were like stations for every country. Like there was England, Scotland, the US, Russia. Literally every country had some type. What do you call it? Like a fort.
Observation station.
Yeah, it was like that's my country, and they had their flags flying and everything. Like this was a whole thing that just recently came out. But
What's
there's a
that?
massive black hole, and they're all around the edges of it.
Ah, yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
So I wouldn't write off the people, the Tartarians. I
Yeah,
think I think you can still contact them and ask them all kinds of information you want.
right.
I
There's no
think
doubt.
they may be just on the other side of the ice wall. Maybe not all of them. Maybe they did kill a bunch of them, but and your people were asking about that. What is this? And the architecture that they had coincided with power generation. Um, I mean, a lot of our old buildings that we see now with the high steeples and they've made them churches were that.
Yeah,
We're part of that time frame, right?
yeah.
And there's pictures of big cities, right? In say the 40s, they got this picture. Big cities, one in Russia, where there's only two.
You lost your audio again. Can't hear you. There you go.
So there's the big cities with all this totalitarian structure with only two people on the street.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, what the heck?
exactly.
This is a big city.
Why would they even, who would, let alone why, would they create something massive in size like that? And the grandiosity of it. I mean, they're not like, you know, just throwing together a structure to stay out of the rain. This is like marble and
Yeah.
limestone and, perfectly put and beautifully done. There's all these different, like, this art, it's inside the stone in one massive piece of marble, and like you got like a dragon coming out of it, and then there's like some virgin lady there's all kinds of different.
It's just
Whoa.
it's beautiful stuff. I'd suggest to your folks there in the group to go look it up because it's just beautiful architecture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And I
precision too.
and I think that Tesla probably was in connection with them and how to generate electricity and send it all around the world.
Right.
Because I think that's what they were doing. And then,
Yep.
ancient Egypt, they're beginning to understand that that's what they were doing with the pyramids too, was
Yep.
free energy and disputing or distributing it around.
Right.
Right?
I mean, how can you keep a slave race that isn't dependent on you? And the only way to keep someone dependent on you is to find an exhaustible resource that they require, and
Yep.
that you will do some type of exchange for, like paying your electricity bill, right?
But I'm just want to share that this is all coming to a close, folks.
Yes,
We're stepping into
exactly.
understanding ourselves and how powerful we are and how we can create our own frequency, our own reality. Then you begin to understand how much fear has been used to get you to flip and mismanifest for them because they
Exactly.
can't manifest themselves.
Right.
They have to use you to manifest, and they use that through propagating fear in you.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
the only way that they become powerful is through the fear that they create in you that they are powerful.
And this is being broken down all the way.
Fast.
Yeah. Real
Did,
fast.
did you hear that they're starting to now arrest the chemtrail plane drivers?
Oh, really? I saw something. I don't watch any of that stuff. So, like, when it does pop, I appreciate knowing about it. Really? So they're arresting them.
Well, in Russia, Putin told them if you fly over here with those planes, I'll shoot you down.
Wow.
So they can't fly over Russia, and now they won't be able to fly over the US anymore, right? Because they'll
What
get
happened?
arrested, get taken down.
Wow.
So they can't put the barium and strontium and everything in the atmosphere anymore.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So things are changing.
Yeah, they stopped fluoridating the water too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they started here in Arkansas before uh the inauguration. They were just like, "Oh, right, okay, we're just gonna stop doing it now." Then, obviously, that's gonna be something that's here. They're gonna say for us to do in the future, kind of thing. But, and then also they've made many of the different types of artificial dyes that are known to be harmful. Those are now no longer legal in this country. It's a federal law. Most of these things, additives, I guess they call them, um, have been only accepted in this country, and had every other country wasn't doing it, but um, there's a lot of really good change happening just this past
Yeah.
couple of months.
Yeah. Since a certain someone got in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's going to keep getting, continue to improve. We're going to
Yeah.
find other things like I know that we're anticipating 2 Kazimis this month, and along with the 17th of May, and also I believe the 30th, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So we got a couple of interesting energy windows that are those in by themselves, but we're expecting more to happen. And while that's occurring, what you're meant to do is to follow your own heart, to follow your inner guidance. And what is that for you? Sometimes it's playing and creation. Sometimes it's unpacking the things that you had, over layered, with trauma or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It depends on what's correct for you, but mostly to listen to yourself and to find your community. That's what I'm being given the most.
And 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 to explore, because you're freer than you can even think at this point,
Yes.
because the mind is still coming out of all the hypnosis that was going on prior to now the Great Awakening, the expansion,
Right.
right? That I mean, it was always happening on a trickle level, but now it's really happening.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's going to continue to get
Yeah.
better too. Yeah. It's going to be an amazing year, and I mean, it already has been, but it's going to continue to do that. I keep getting a lot of stuff about this year through to 2025, 2027. I mean, and but this is the one that we've been waiting for. I actually got told about this year when I was 6. And so I've been waiting for this year for a long time.
Yeah.
And we finally made it to the other side, because there was a 2-year window we just left. That was the hard part.
Yeah.
And the hard part's over now.
That's right.
Yay!
Yeah.
Yeah. So now it's just taking the moment to reemerge. And with this
Well,
Tartarian stuff, what we're doing is we're stepping back into it. It's not even that, because we're genetically connected, biologically
exactly.
connected. The orphan
We are
train brought their
Egypt-
genetics to us.
we are the ancient Egyptians.
Yes.
We are the Tartarians. We
Yes.
are the, you know, and it's to awaken that in us and to let go of the mask we've been wearing, because I'm telling you, the societal hypnosis has got nothing in it for you.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's spent.
Yeah.
And it's time to come back to your true nature, your true power within yourself, and create.
That's right.
Because no matter what reality you hear about out there, it's not your reality. Your reality is inside of you waiting to be birthed.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was supposed to be. We were supposed to come down here and enjoy our abilities and be able to move forward in that creation. And you ask any child has that fervor within them,
Yeah.
right? That we get busy and train out of them, or put the mask on, or shame them for being that. So when
Yeah.
I do the prayer, oh my beloved God that I am, come forth from where I buried you. I raise you from the tomb. I'm talking about a part of me inside of me. That part, that child part that came in here and knew.
Yeah.
We raise into our power, and then we start using it to create and manifest freely outside of the confines.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a co-create and there's a recreate. There's a lot of different things you'll find. Recreate, they call it recreate. They took away the word by changing the pronunciation of it. But these are all places that we find the flow. And I love that you're talking about that. If I had more time, we could go on longer, but I do have to get going. But this
Okay.
particular topic about bringing forth the dormant self is this inner child or the shadow self, or all these, we have different words. It's like the Tower of Babel. It all means the same thing. It's this true self. It's inside. That
Higher
voice
self.
has always been there.
It isn't out. The higher self isn't out there above you somewhere. It's right within you. It's a child that you came in
Exactly.
as it, right? You start tasking that child to do healings on you, and you're going to amaze yourself
Yeah.
at how fast that child can heal you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is really what I've done. Like, people ask me all the time, because some people don't know, but most people do. Like, I was a traffic child. I was a child that didn't, no one knew we existed until I broke out. And there was, broken bones and blooding and all kinds of different stuff all through my life. And just lots of things. And then they hear me talk and they don't believe me.
Yeah.
They don't believe I could have come from such trauma. And what you're describing and what you're talking about is what I did. Like, for those who wonder how, that's it.
Mhm.
It's a little
Yeah.
bit at a time. And sometimes it's like looking at this beach and you having to pick up one grain of sand at a time. And it can feel overwhelming. But how do you start? With one. You start with one. And you'll find that very quickly, in rapid succession, you'll find release, healing, and balance.
Yeah.
And
Because you're worthy of it.
mhm. Yeah,
Bottom line.
exactly.
I know what that's like in a sense because I was, I guess, raped quite often for a while by a nun, believe it or not.
Yeah,
So coming out of that, I mean, sure, okay, when that happens as a child, you kind of, you're just glad to be home and you don't really deal with it. And then later on, you find that there's reactions to you and different things, and you're not sure why. And then you start the process of healing. And when you heal and you feel the freedom of coming out of that, but it all starts with imagining that you're worthy, that there's something more to you than what's been going on.
yeah.
And there is.
And
There's
there
much more.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so the more that we can deal with that, leave it behind and step into the new for yourself, a new, because it's all about shifting your identity.
right.
You think you are, right? Anyway, I can
You're
go on
right.
and on.
Oh, I could too. I would. We would probably talk longer if I could.
Yes.
um, I am going to post this up. I also put it in the description of the video. But this is your website.
Yeah.
This is the website to contact. Now, this is the best way to contact you for anyone who's interested. Is that right?
Yeah, I have a link right on the first page that says book a free call, and they can just press that and book into my calendar for a free call, and we can talk about whatever you want to talk about. Some people want to talk about personal healing, some want to take the hypnotherapy course or whatever. It's all through that button that they can talk to me freely, and
Cool.
we'll discuss what they want to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And these initial appointments are free, you said.
Well, they're a consultation. The
Yeah.
initial one is free. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. I was really looking forward to this conversation, and I feel like it just zoomed by. We've been talking for an hour and a half.
I know. We did something with time there.
I know we did. We were talking about it, and then we did it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining today. I really appreciate
Well,
it.
thank you for having me on again.
Yeah, of
Thank you so
course.
much.
I have an announcement real quick I got to make before we get going. On Wednesday, it's Yolanda Marie and Guardian joining me for the Wednesday show. And if anyone is interested in joining the show, I have a bunch of Fridays opened up. So, because I'm starting to do Fridays now, anyone who is interested and does like to want to try out coming on the show, please send me an email. Please keep it brief. We talked about that earlier. The briefer, the better. Then I'll actually be able to ingest the information that you've provided. And once again, thank you so very much for being on here today. And I look forward to having you on again soon.
Oh, well, thank you. I would enjoy that.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. I'll see you all soon. Love you. Aho blessings.
Bye bye.